woodwork. Ain't gonna lie. Welcome back to Homestead Heart. And y'all saw me over there. I broke down that whole pile of wood chips. Just me, the help of God, and my pitchfork. That's all I had, right? And not to mention, you all, the company of Bud. In case you all don't know, Bud is on the mend. Bud is up and about. He's not using his wheelchair. I'm gonna tell y'all all about that. Where is he? There he is, right there. You see Bud back here? Come here, Bud. Come on. Come on. Come on, Bud. Come on, Bud. You see him jogging. Look at my Bud. You see my Bud jogging. He's jogging. Yes, he is. Y'all, I'm gonna tell y'all, if you remember me telling y'all some months back that all of a sudden Jackson just lost feeling in his hind legs, and we had to take him to the vet, and they saw some damage along the tail end of his spine, and they couldn't figure out what had caused it or nothing like that. But Bud was in pain. He couldn't walk. He was on medication. He was constipated, couldn't use the bathroom. He was going through all of these changes. And so I bought Bud a little puppy wheelchair because Bud's front legs were doing just fine. There was nothing wrong with his front legs. So I bought him a little puppy wheelchair, and I put him in that wheelchair. And day one, Bud ate the straps off of the wheelchair, and he said, "I'll be darned if you put me in a doggy wheelchair. I'm not going for it." And so he would never wear it. He would never keep it on, and he would drag his little legs, and I would have to take him outside, hold him up and stuff until he could stand long enough to use the bathroom. Then I would have to carry him back in the house because he couldn't walk hardly, couldn't walk up the steps. And lo and behold, I just kept doing that for him, and he started getting strength back in his legs and stuff. And man, and then now you see my Bud be running now. We do not know to this very day what caused it. It could have been that we thought, well, I told the vet that it could have been that one day, but that had happened a week ago when Bud jumped out of the truck because we were moving about on the farm, and he doesn't wait for me. He literally jumped out of the bed of the truck onto the ground, and I'm like, Bud, you know, but he seemed fine. And it was like a week or so later that he started having issues with his back. So that's the only thing I could think of that could have happened to him. But Bud, he destroyed the wheelchair. Luckily it didn't cost a lot, because I told him, I'm like, bro, you owe me $35. Bud is on the mend. Now listen, y'all saw me break down that wood chip pile. I did it, right? I did it. They brought it this morning. I thought they were done. I looked at the driver when they pulled up, and I said, I thought y'all were done. Y'all hadn't been here in a while. And he said, we thought we were done too. So I'm assuming that they thought they were finished, but they forgot something and they had to take care of it, and they brought that load here. So I'm glad they brought it here, because I was able to put that load in a spot that this homestead truly, truly benefited from. The greatest harvest, the best harvest, the most successful harvest we ever got, we grew in that area where I broke down that mountain of wood chips, okay? Now, why was it the most successful garden we've ever grown? I'll tell you why. You see these wood chips here? We've already started clearing these out. And after moving them to the desired location, we realized that by the time we finish, we'll be lucky to have 1 or 2 mounds of wood chips left over, because we've already taken out 3 of these mounds and put them in the locations, and we are not even 10% close to completion. So the rest of this is going to definitely take up that space, right? But when he brought that load this morning, I'm like, no, let's put it there, because that's where I had the best garden harvest ever. Now, why did it make it the best garden harvest? Let me tell you why. A few years back, 3 to 4 years ago, we had wood chips brought out to the homestead. And they put a half a load of wood chips in that little spot there. And we spreaded that load out, and it broke down about 1.5 years or so. We did nothing. But in the middle of summer, it was getting ready to rain. And I said to Mr. H, let's plant something in that spot. And he said, okay, what do you want to plant? And we decided on cushaw. You know, that's our favorite squash, right? My beautiful aunt who transitioned just a few months ago, she was 98 years of age. Her mother, my big mama, they used to make that squash for us all the time. And it was my favorite squash ever, okay? And so when I was able to get my hands on those seeds, you cannot imagine my excitement to be able to grow that squash and not only send it home to my mom and everybody, but to be able to share that squash with my great aunt who hadn't had it in so many years because they stopped selling it in the supermarket and she couldn't get it anywhere else, right? So it made me feel so good to be able to send that squash home to my beautiful Aunt Mary. Yes, it did. But anyway, you all, that's the squash that we planted. After Mr. H went out in the rain, he just pulled the mulch back, dropped the seeds in, and lightly covered it. He didn't cover it heavy. He just lightly covered it, and he ran back in the house because it was raining. And it poured rain for a couple of days. And then, you all, in just a few days, the squash was, he planted so many seeds because we were thinking, well, you know, we'll plant double what we want. And lo and behold, every single seed he planted, 2 or 3 in a space, they all came up. So, to our delight, we knew we were going to have way more than what we bargained for. So once the cushaw was up, Mr. H went back out there and he covered it up even more to where it was just the 2 little codling leaves. You know, they're pretty big leaves though, but it was just the 2 little leaves sticking up with all of the mulch directly underneath, right? And that is all we did. And for years, that's how we planted our cushaw in that space, okay? Now, what did we do to it? Nothing. We added no fertilizer, no nitrogen, no phosphorus, no potassium. All of that is in the wood chips, all of it, right? We didn't need to do anything to it. Now, when they bring out the wood chips, if they have a really good chipper, the wood chips are really small. Really small. They're not big chunks and hunks of wood or tree bark, right? No, they are chips, like it suggests, chips, right? But it's full of pine needles, green pine needles. It's full of green leaves, and then the chips themselves, all of what you need. Think about it. When the trees and the leaves and all of that, when they start losing their little branches and limbs, and in the fall when the leaves fall off the trees and they hit the ground, they're falling to the ground for a purpose. God set it up that way, right? They're falling to the ground for a purpose, and that's to break down and continue to feed the trees, continue to feed the soil. So we're just mimicking that. That's all we're doing here, like what you've seen in the documentary Back to Eden Gardening, right? So we didn't add any fertilizer to it, nothing. We just allowed it to break down. And once it broke down and we popped those seeds in, you all, we had 0 pest issues. For the first few years, 0 pest, okay? Pests were not interested. Pests were not interested in that growing space. It was too healthy, right? But we did see a lot of ladybugs and lacewings and all of that. We did see a lot of healthy, beneficial insects in the garden, and we welcomed them, right? We didn't have an issue with squash bugs. Come on, no squash bugs? I don't care how we have had to try to trick the squash bugs into thinking we were not planting in a certain space anymore, and we moved the squash completely across the garden or completely across the farm. Somehow they always found their way. But in this growing space, not a single squash bug came to our plants. It was awesome. They did last year, and they took out our plants, right? Because everything had broken down, the weeds had started to grow, grass was growing. The growing conditions were very different now. So it was kind of like an invitation to the non-beneficial insects that, you know, were kind of like the bane of my existence for the last few years in certain parts of the garden. So we didn't have to do anything. So now that I have spread those chips out, they're probably a good 12 to 14 inches in some spots, maybe 18 inches deep. And I am hoping that we get another load from them, because if we do, I'm gonna also spread it out in that area, and I'm going to just smooth it out to where I can probably get a good foot or so of wood chips, or a foot and a half of wood chips in a particular square or rectangle, you know. But if I can do that, I'll let them break down, and then next summer, God willing, next summer, around June, mid to late June, when we get a good rain, we're gonna pop in those seeds again, and we're gonna see what happens. Because the beautiful thing is that some of the wood chips and some of the leaves and all of that, they are already so fine that they're going to break down rather quickly, okay? Because they've been just kind of smushed up and crunched up and heated up in the back of those wood chip trucks. They've been heated up even, right? Now I went and picked this up because I wanted you to see this. See, you got all of these crunchy leaves. They have had an opportunity to sit and die and dry out and get all brittle. You can see the pine needles and all of that. See, these things here, that's gonna break down a lot faster than the wood chips. See, this will be broken down by next summer, right? This is gonna be, all of these little leaves are gonna be broken down by June next year. They'll be good, and they will have already started to feed. Look at that. Look at that, just the leaves and stuff. See that? I'm literally crunching this in my hand. Look at it. Look at how it falls out. See that? Sorry, bud. See that? See, that's already started to break down, right? But look at this. But look at these pieces. I had to reposition the camera. But look at these pieces here. I want you to see how small those chips are. Look at that. See here? They're very small. Not big, giant pieces of bark, but they're literally chips, right? And everything that's kind of mixed in with that, those fine pieces of leaves that also went through the chipper, those are gonna break down so super fast, and they're gonna start feeding the soil right away, right? So when you're getting wood chips, you do want a small chip. You don't want a hunks of wood, right? So they have an excellent wood chipper to be able to get these beautiful little fine chips, or small pieces of chips, not shavings, but chips, right? And those are gonna break down over time, okay? They're gonna break down over time. So that's really what you want when you are getting wood chips in. You want that combination. You don't want just a bunch of wood. You want the combination of the leaves or the pine straw or pine needles and the chip and even a little bit of bark is good too. You're gonna get the bark, right? But it's not just a ton of bark. So that's really what you want. And because those leaves are gonna break down so fast, they're gonna already start feeding the soil. Think about it. As long as our chips are a good foot deep or so, like we had them when we first had them brought here, we had them a good foot or more deep in that area, and the leaves and everything started to break down. And so when we popped seeds in it, it was already ready to go. It was already full of nutrition so that our plants could do what they got to do, right? We never watered because all of the mulch, the wood chips kind of act like sponges. They kind of hold on to that moisture, right? Because it's so deep, and the leaves that are in there as well, they hold on to that moisture when it rains, so it keeps the soil moist, not soggy, but moist. So we never had to water in that area, not one time after it rained and our little seedlings popped up. We never watered that area, okay? We never had to fertilize, and we never had to put anything down for pests, okay? So it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. Zero maintenance. And if that's not the best way to garden, I don't know what is. Zero maintenance, no pests, no this, no that, right? All of the struggles that we faced in our big garden, we did not face in this garden area where we had all of the wood chips. And the depth makes a difference. So if you're gonna just put down a couple of inches of wood chips, I'm gonna tell you that's not gonna be sufficient. You are gonna need some deep mulch for this to work, okay? And when you do put it down, give it a good year or so and let it start to break down if you can. I think for us, this is gonna be, it's gonna be 9 months before we plant into this. Whoop, whoop. So I hope y'all found this information helpful. Wood chips are really wonderful to use in the garden if you know how to use them. Somebody's gonna say, what about the cardboard? Feel free to put cardboard down if you want. But we didn't put cardboard down 4 years ago, and we didn't put cardboard down there this time. Our mulch is so thick that we don't need to put cardboard down, okay? We got enough that we can pile it high, right? If they bring us another load of wood chips, I'm gonna put them in the same spot, and I'm gonna make it even higher, right? If I can make it 2 feet, I'm gonna make it 2 feet. Now, your crops ain't gonna grow in 2 feet. Keep in mind, when you plant, you're gonna move all of that out of the way because your goal is to get to the soil, okay? And once you get to the soil underneath, that's where you will put your little hole and pop your seed or your transplant in that spot. We do not cover that back up. Now for us, we plant on rainy days in June, but if you're not planting on a rainy day, you're gonna have to water that in. And when you do cover it up, cover it back up with the soil and maybe just a few leaves or something, crushed up leaves, not big leaves to where it'll mat it down, but it needs to be free. The soil needs to be free so that the seed can pop up, it can sprout, it can germinate, and nothing will prohibit those little leaves from emerging through the soil. Okay. Once they get a certain height above, I would say as they grow, then I would gently add mulch around the bottom or around the base, okay? And then the bigger the plant gets, then you can start to pull mulch closer in, right? And it'll be surrounded by all this other mulch, okay? Because that's what it was for us. It'll be surrounded by all this other mulch, and it's not going anywhere. The wind doesn't blow it over your crops or anything like that, okay? It's not heavy, but it's not light enough for the wind to move it, okay? So you don't have to worry about that either. Now, I've heard from many of you that back to Eden gardening or using wood chips in your garden doesn't work for you. Some people have said it brings in ticks or different type of issues that they have with back to Eden gardening, or some people have said I'm in the South and we can't really use wood chips like that in the South because it gives us all these different problems. Well, I'm in the South too, and I'm gonna stand by what I said when I said the best garden we ever grew was underneath those wood chips that had sat for over a year. Yes. So if you have a space that you don't have to plant in right away, that you can, the birds are singing today, baby. Just don't drop nothing, okay? But if you have a space that you want to put a garden and you're not in a hurry to plant in that garden, put as much wood chips in that space as you can. If you're doing a 20 by 20 garden space, well, get yourself enough to fill a 20 by 20 garden space a good foot to a foot and a half deep, and let that sit until you're ready to plant. And if that's a year from now or 2 years from now, it doesn't matter. Once you get ready to plant in that space, you're going to have some very healthy composted soil to grow in, because those leaves will break down and feed that soil. Okay? All right, you all. So you tell me what you think about gardening with wood chips. Does it work for you in your space? Post it in the comment section below. If it doesn't work for you in your space, post that as well, but also tell why. Okay? Give the details. Don't say it didn't work for me. It never works for me in the South, right? You have to really give some more information, okay, to help people, where you're located, what city you're in, or not. Maybe you don't want to tell your city, but what state you're in, right? So you kind of have to share the whys too, okay? So if it works for you, explain what you do. If it don't work for you, explain why it doesn't work for you, okay? All right, y'all. So now that I have that mountain of wood chips broken down and spread out, I'm going to hope and pray that they do have another load that they just pop up with. Because if they do, oh my goodness, that's gonna be such a beautiful space. Yes, it is. All right, y'all, that's gonna do it for this video. If you like the video, like it, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and follow us on our other social media platforms. We're over on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. All right, y'all. So thank you for watching Homestead Heart. Peace and blessings. I'm going to get back to work, and I will see y'all in the next video. Grow your groceries.